So, this is a tough video for me to make because this is something that, I just don't really know how to talk about it. And here's the thing, this is not a serious topic whatsoever. Who cares that, me personally, I am kind of just done with wrestling, because at the end of the day, it's not like it really affects anyone. Who gives a shit? I'm more or less making this video just to kind of rant about my problems with the pro wrestling industry, community, everything. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, I still love pro wrestling, but it's a very tough hobby to have, to be a pro wrestling fan, because there just feels like there's so much stuff in it within the community and within the industry itself that just makes you want to not be a fan of it so much. Ultimately, before we really get into the crux of this video, this all kind of started, my whole thing of being done with pro wrestling started with SummerSlam, this past SummerSlam that WWE had. And at first, when at the end of night one, I felt like we were so back. In fact, this video was originally meant to be a review of SummerSlam, or at least giving my thoughts about it. And this was something that I used to do with WWE pay-per-views or PLEs or whatever the fuck you want to call them. I haven't done them in a while, but that's just mostly because I've been busy or I just didn't feel like it. Some of them I wasn't able to watch live or have time to sit down and watch them even afterwards. So I just kind of stopped doing them for a while. But with how good this SummerSlam was, at least until the last 2 minutes, I was a lot more hopeful about where WWE was going to go, about just how the product was going to be handled as a whole, that I wanted to make a video about it. But then the last 2 minutes happened, and for those of you who aren't aware, I feel like you have to be by now. Brock Lesnar returned to WWE, and now this is not necessarily a big deal if you take a lot of context away from it, because Brock Lesnar has been a big name within WWE ever since 2002, so it's not irregular to see him in a wrestling ring. And I have never been a Brock hater. That's the thing. Until the last few years, I have never been a Brock hater, even though I may have not been a fan of some of the booking decisions made around Brock and how he played a role in squashing talent. I still liked a couple of the things that Brock provided to the industry. However, this all changed when he was named as being a part of the Janelle Grant case. And for those of you who probably weren't aware, again, if you're watching this, you're more than likely a fan of pro wrestling, so you already know what I'm talking about here. He was named in the sex trafficking essay lawsuit against Vince McMahon. And here's the thing, he wasn't named, I will say that. He wasn't actually named, but if you saw the Mr. McMahon documentary, or even if you just read the document that came out about all the complaints that were filed during the lawsuit, you would know that even though he is not named, he is heavily implied. So essentially what happened is that before Brock returned to the WWE in 2021 at SummerSlam, once again, a Brock return at SummerSlam, before that, apparently he wasn't under any sort of contract with WWE until Vince promised him that he would get him sexual material from this girl, Janelle Grant, who Vince had been essaying and sex trafficking. So Brock Lesnar literally played a role into the sex trafficking and essay of a female employee of Vince's. And to me, it's even if I am a fan of someone, if they do something like that, I'm not going to defend what they do, unlike some people, because there are people who are literally defending Brock or still fans of him, and I find that utterly disgusting. So ever since it was basically said that Brock Lesnar played a role into what happened to Janelle, it was very much fuck him. I don't care. I don't have that much of an attachment to him to defend him, even if, let's say, hypothetically, because there is no evidence that he has done anything like this ever, Seth Rollins. I love Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is my favorite wrestler. It's why I was so ecstatic about, SummerSlam and the fallout of it, because of that awesome moment in the night one main event when he comes out and shows that he wasn't actually injured. But if Seth Rollins, if some weird shit came out about Seth Rollins, I would not defend the weird shit. Because at the end of the day, even if I have a connection towards these people, if they make me feel some sort of way, if they still do terrible shit, then they're not who I thought they were, so I'm not a fan of them anymore. And with WWE, well, I have always been a big fan of their product and what they have, came out with, even though there's definitely been stuff that I haven't been a fan of. Overall, I still enjoy the product. But with this case of them bringing Brock Lesnar back, fully aware of what he did, to the point where I'm pretty sure he was literally named in the lawsuit at this point, because at first he was just alluded to, but then he was explicitly named not that long ago too. So the fact that they're just so willing to bring him back with all the stuff going on, with the fact that it is public knowledge now that he was a part of this shit, it's so disgusting. I don't understand it one bit. I don't understand it. And this also follows the fact that WWE is just becoming unapologetically MAGA lately. There was the fucking Tony Hinchcliffe roast of WrestleMania that never came out, that they never released. But if you've seen footage that people took of it, behind closed doors, it was fucking awful. Not just in the case of the subject matter being covered, but just from the fact it was terrible comedy. It was terrible comedy overall, but also some very gross shit was said during that event. And also they've been fucking parading around that fucking Triple H was present during a Donald Trump's presidential fitness test or whatever, and they've been showing that on their social medias, and they're they had little segments of SummerSlam dedicated to hey, Triple H did this. What are you doing? Who cares? Why are you dedicating so much time to this? It's fucking disgusting. And then having this happen where you allow Brock Lesnar to return, there was a time period where there was shit when the initial shit about Vince dropped, when it was still a little it was still a little unknown what happened outside of the fact that it was a SA sex trafficking case. There was a time period where Vince came back, but even then I was able to understand it, because when you looked at what actually happened, it was more he forced his way back just because of the power that he held within the company even after stepping down. He was still able to force his way out, force his way back into the company, even though most people didn't want him there. That was at least understandable, even though, again, it was gross and undefensible. But then when they let him go, I was okay, this is a good thing. They finally just went away with him, which is good. It was obvious they didn't want him to come back, and I was willing to give more grace to them then. But with this, there is no way in hell that this is a situation where Brock just forced his way back in there. They wanted him to come back, and I don't understand how anybody thought this was a good idea. And here's the thing. Now, a lot of people will see me talk about this and why it makes me just unwilling to watch wrestling anymore. And some people will see that and be at least with WWE, be oh, well, just because Brock is back doesn't mean you can't enjoy other aspects. And while that is true, to me, I just don't feel right supporting a company, supporting a product that is willing to do this. I feel so bad for their female roster, because if they're willing to bring back someone who did this extremely gross thing, had another person force this woman to make sexual contact of themselves for him, I don't understand. I can't fathom how the female roster feels. They must, because essentially what this company is telling you is that they don't give a fuck about you, that they don't give a fuck about the females under their employment, that they are willing to put them in the same venue, in the same vicinity as a fucking creep. Just insanely gross. And some people will look at this and be well, you can still enjoy AEW, you can still enjoy other wrestling promotions. And here's the thing, you are right in a sense. However, I have never been one who's only watched WWE. The reason why I don't watch AEW is because I just am not invested in their product. I following All In. I wanted to give it another try, and I did. I watched Dynamite, I watched Collision, but there was just nothing that kept me from continuing to watch. Like, I just wasn't invested in any of the storylines. Nobody particularly grabbed me when it came to the wrestlers. And I like Adam Page, but even with what he's doing right now, I don't care. But like a lot of the wrestlers that used to be in AEW or like still are in AEW that I do like and I want to see them do stuff, they're not doing anything. Like, I really want Daniel Garcia to be a bigger name than what he is now, and he has just kind of fallen off. I do like Kyle Fletcher, but I feel like him beating Dustin Rhodes like last week or something, it fell flat compared to the fact that he could have just won at All In. Instead, they just had like a little moment with Dustin Rhodes, and it's a sweet moment, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's just like it feels little by the fact that you're clearly just doing this for like a small little victory instead of giving someone who is going to be the future of your company if you do them right. Just give them that moment right now instead of a guy who really hasn't been doing much and that people don't really care about. But like, there's nothing with AEW that I'm particularly invested that much in. I feel like they have a lot of stuff they need to fix. It feels like it's felt like that for a long time now, so I'm just not invested into the product. And the same goes for like companies like New Japan and TNA. Like, there's some aspects that I might like, there's some wrestlers I definitely like, but there's nothing that's keeping me from like continuing to watch these promotions. And there were people who I saw like in reaction to the Brock Lesnar return who used that moment to be like AEW better or make it about fucking tribalism or something, and that's just so fucking disgusting to me. And I left comments on people's posts about it because like it truly infuriates me. It's in a similar vein to what I was talking about on my main channel, on the latest video on my main channel, where I was talking about people's reactions to the Lowell Overruled thing, where it came out that he was a bit of a sex pest who would go into girls' DMs within the leftist community to try to like, sleep with them. And that was disgusting. And some people in reaction to that were just like, oh, I knew all along he was a creep. It gives off the same energy when people are like, oh, well, real wrestling is on Wednesdays and Saturdays now. It's like, it gives off that same energy that you don't actually give a shit about the victims of this. That you're just trying to make this about either yourself or, in this case, your favorite company. Like, oh, my favorite company is better, which it's not, because Tony Khan literally played a role into covering up Chris Jericho sexually harassing Kylie Ray with an NDA. So don't even act like it's even a little bit better. There's still fucking creeps over there too. Like, I fucking hated seeing people do that because you're such fucking weirdos. I'm sorry, but literally no normal person would look at that and think that you're being based or something. You're a fucking creep if you're trying to make this about tribalism. You don't actually give a shit, and you're a terrible fucking person. And that's the thing too, I feel like with the wrestling community, it's full of fucking weirdos. There are some good people out there too. Definitely within the online space. Don't get me wrong. But there's been like content creators who I've seen have literally no reaction to Brock being back outside of like, oh, do we really need him back? And not in the sense of like, oh, he's a creep, we shouldn't have him back. Like, in terms of just content. Like, they're so content pilled. They don't understand. They can't even like come at it across of being like, this guy is a fucking creep. And then there's just other people who like, there's just people who take every situation way too, it's just weird. It's just like people who take wrestling way too fucking personal. Like, we're a single booking decision that really isn't like problematic or anything. It's just like, oh, a wrestler that they don't like went over despite the fact that they're more popular with the crowd. Like like people hating on Jey Uso to the degree that they hate on him, to me it gives off such weird vibe, because even though I do like Jey Uso, even if I didn't, I feel like if you spend so much time hating a person who really has done nothing wrong, you just find them a bit cringe, and you hate them as much as I see people like hate on Jey Uso, at some point you're just a fucking weirdo. Like, save that energy for wrestlers who are actually like terrible people. But I've seen like I don't get it. People take wrestling way too personally and way too like, it's just supposed to be entertainment. And I feel like with some of these people, wrestling is all they have. They have no other hobbies. Like, they're so obsessed with wrestling, and if you honestly, it would do them so much better just to like get into other shit. Like, I am so thankful for the fact that like I am not just a pro wrestling fan. I also like anime. I also like comic books, video games, just other shit. Because like there have been times before this moment where like I'll see people freaking out within the pro wrestling space, or if I'm just not interested in what's going on in pro wrestling, I'll just be like, well, I can just get into other shit. It's not that big of a deal. But I feel like for some people within the pro wrestling community, they are just so like pro wrestling pilled. Like pro wrestling is the only thing they like, it's the only thing they care for, that they hate it. They just hate it at this point. Like, you don't like pro wrestling that much. I feel like with some of the people within the pro wrestling community, because like if you would not be reacting the way that you do if you like had any sort of other interest that you could spend your time on if you just weren't enjoying the current product. But some of these people don't. They just focus on pro wrestling and nothing else. Like, please, if pro wrestling or just anything, if you only have like one hobby, like if you only watch anime, if you only watch comic book movies, if you only play video games, please find something else. Not because like, oh, you don't actually like what your current hobby is, but just like diversify. And it's not just for like moments like this, it also just makes you like, I feel like the more hobbies that you have, or at least like just having other hobbies and not just being obsessed over one thing, might make you come off as a more normal person. Because some of these people just seem so obsessed with wrestling, it just gives off a weird vibe, and I can see why some people might not get into pro wrestling just based off the interactions online. Like, I can see why some people might just like avoid it altogether, or would just refuse to talk about it. Because there will be people that I follow on like Twitter or something who I will see them, like if a big moment happens in wrestling, they'll talk about it because they do like wrestling, but they don't talk about it regularly, and I can see why, and I can understand why. But when it comes to me, I did title this video why I am done with wrestling. I don't know if I'll ever be done. That's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, I still like pro wrestling, but I feel like it's going to take a lot to get me back in, because honestly, I am going cold turkey. I've like been clicking like not interested whenever I see pro wrestling posts. I've been unfollowing people on like social media if they're connected to pro wrestling, because honestly, I'm just kind of done. I feel like the community of pro wrestling is just incredibly toxic. I feel like the industry itself honestly just needs like a big hard reset, because there's a lot of problems that persist in this industry because people refuse to actually deal with them. And we see that with cases like Brock Lesnar returning and Chris Jericho not facing any consequences even when he was outed for what he did to Kylie Ray, and Tony Khan covering it up. This shit is always going to persist unless somebody does something about it, and I just don't feel comfortable participating in this community and this industry unless something very much changes. So I don't know. But then again, I don't really see that happening anytime soon, because let's be honest, as long as they're still making money, this problem is never going to go away. But I just don't know. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll get back into it, but the stink is still there. It's still pretty fresh. But I don't feel like this is something that like in a month I'm gonna feel differently about. But yeah, that's all I really had to say on this matter. So I'm just gonna leave it off here. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see other videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you would like to see me talk about more political stuff, then you can check out my main channel, Fruity Soar. And if you would like to see me play video games, I have a channel called Fruity Soar Gaming where you can check out those videos there. Anyways, that's all I have for today, and I'll see you all next time.